We are going to discuss about the mechanism of hydrochloric acid secretion from the parietal cell. This is the important short notes from the gastrointestinal system. Gastric mucosa contains the gastric glands. It contains a different type of cells. The mucous cell present in the neck region, it produces the mucus, product the gastric mucosa. It contains the more alkaline bicarbonate, and actinic cell, the green color cell is the actinic cells, otherwise called as the parietal cells. It produces the hydrochloric acid, and the intrinsic factor also present in the gastric gland. It produces it is important for the absorption of the vitamin B12, and chief cell are peptic cells. It is produce the pepsinogen. So the gastric secretions contains the mucus, hydrochloric acids, intrinsic factor, and pepsinogen. This image shows the parietal cell during the resting state and during the active state. Active state means when the food is entered into the stomach, the parietal cell is looking like this. So it contains, parietal cells contains the tubulovesicular system. It is present look like this during the rest, and open canalicular system. When the food is entered into the stomach, that open canalicular system is very close to the gastric lumen. So this area contains a more number of the proton pump or hydrogen potassium pump. It is helpful to secrete the hydrochloric acid into the stomach. This image shows the mechanism of hydrochloric acid secretion. This is the gastric lumen, this is the parietal cell, this is the interstitial area. When the food is entered into the stomach, the open canalicular system close to the gastric lumen, so it attaches a more number of the potassium hydrogen pump. This is otherwise called as the proton pump. So parietal cells are otherwise called as actinic cells. It has a proton pump, hydrogen or potassium pump. So in the inside of the cell, due to the metabolism produce the carbon dioxide, it is combined with the water, it forms the carbonic anhydrase. In the presence of the carbonic anhydrase, it forms a carbonic acid, and carbonic acid is split into the bicarbonate and hydrogen ion. The hydrogen ion is pumped through the proton pump into the gastric lumen. This bicarbonate ion is exchanged with the bicarbonate and chloride exchanger, and chloride ion passively enter into the gastric lumen. This hydrogen ion and chloride ion is combined to form the hydrochloric acid. This is mainly occurred due to with the help of sodium potassium pump. So it is the transport is occur in the form of secondary active transport, and potassium, this hydrogen potassium pump, potassium is again passively enter into the gastric lumen. So when the entry of the hydrogen ion, one hydrogen ion into the gastric lumen, one bicarbonate ion is enter into the interstitial area, so it enter into the plasma. Okay, so when after taking the food, more amount of the hydrochloric acid is secreted into the gastric lumen. Same time in the plasma, more amount of the bicarbonate ion is present due to the exchange through bicarbonate chloride exchangers. When the entry of the one hydrogen through the proton bomb, one bicarbonate ion is entered into the interstitial area. So it produces the postprandial alkaline tide. Postprandial alkaline tide. This is the important points in the mechanism of hydrochloric acid secretion. When the secretion of one hydrogen ion into the gastric lumen facilitate the secretion of bicarbonate ion into the interstitial area. What are the factors affecting the hydrochloric acid secretion? Mainly gastrin. Gastrin increases the hydrochloric acid through secretion through the increased intracellular calcium ions. So through the IP3 phosphate system, it increases the hydrochloric acid secretions. And histamine. Histamine is the potent stimulator. It is activated through the cyclic AMP pathway. And acetylcholine also increases the hydrochloric acid secretion through the intracellular calcium second messenger system. And prostaglandin E2 is inhibit the gastric secretion because it decreases the cyclic AMP formation. Regulation of the gastric secretion occur at the three phases. First phase is the cephalic phase. The cephalic phase is stimulated by the sight, smell and taste of the food. When the food is not entered into the mouth, the cephalic phase of the secretion is started due to the sight when we are seeing the food and smelling the food. And when the food is entered into the mouth, when we are chewing, that itself also it stimulates the gastric secretion. So 40 to 50% of the gastric secretion is stimulated during the cephalic phase. It is mainly controlled through the higher centers, brain, and activated through the vagus nerve. So it is mainly neural mechanisms. And gastric phase, 50 to 60% of the gastric secretion is secreted during the gastric phase. When the chyme is entered into the stomach, it produces the distension of the stomach, and peptides present in the chyme also stimulate the gastric secretion by the vagovagal reflex and local reflexes through the vagus nerve. And the intestinal phase of the secretion mainly inhibit the gastric secretion through the secretin, gastric inhibitory peptide and cholecystokinin. Initially, it increases a little bit gastric secretion through the vagovagal reflex. Summary of hydrochloric acid secretion from the parietal cell is it secreted through the hydrogen potassium pump by the secondary active transport. When the secretion of the one hydrogen into the gastric mucosa permit the one bicarbonate ion into the interstitial area, it is responsible for the postprandial alkaline tide. The gastrin, histamine and acetylcholine stimulate the gastric secretion. The gastric secretion is occurred at the three phases. Cephalic phase, 40 to 50% is secreted during the cephalic phase, and gastric phase, 50 to 60% of the gastric secretion occur during the gastric phase. Intestinal phase main function is to inhibit the gastric secretion. Thank you for watching this video. Those who are not subscribed this channel, please subscribe. Thank you once again.